What is going on, guys? I finally finished rewatching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I have been waiting a long time to finally make a video on it, and so today, since it is the popular thing I've been doing lately, I'm going to be ranking what I think the homunculi are from weakest to strongest. So starting at the bottom of the list, I have Envy, and I don't think too many people will be surprised about this. I mean, the biggest thing really going for Envy is that his true form is just this giant kind of reptile thing, like a dragon, I guess. He can't fly or breathe fire, right? So it's not that good. But yeah, that seems to be the best thing he has going for him, and just typically in shonen, a lot of the time being big doesn't really help that much. A lot of the time it actually kind of hurts. It even was shown by Mustang how that was the case. He's like, you really think that getting bigger is going to help you? No, that clearly backfired on him. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the best thing he's got going for him, that's kind of going to hurt, especially compared to the abilities that these other homunculi have. And another important thing to consider as well is that he has the ability to just transform how he looks. He can look like any other character in the entire series. And nobody else really has utility like that, so if he wasn't going to be at the bottom of the list, that would be really surprising to me. That seems to me like it'd be a little overpowered, so I think it makes more than enough sense that he'd be at the bottom. The only two people I really had a hard time picking here was Envy and the next one, Lust. I think Lust comes here next. I kind of wanted to put her at the bottom, but I mean, she does actually have, you know, an offensive ability, which is her ultimate spear, is how Wrath referred to it. I mean, it's really hard to say, like, if she's super fast and agile or whatever. We didn't really get to see any of that, unfortunately. I don't really know why. I thought that she could have done a little bit more of that and it would have been cool. But I think it's safe to assume that she probably is, since every other homunculus has shown to be pretty athletic, generally speaking. They're pretty much all superhuman, besides the fact that they can just regenerate and have some special ability. And like I said, with Envy's ability to just get larger, that doesn't really help in this kind of world, and she actually does have some kind of weapon, that ultimate spear, which does seem to be pretty fucking powerful as far as we've seen. If she didn't completely underestimate Mustang, then she would have been pretty much good. I mean, pretty much the entire thing going on would have been okay. If there was no Mustang, I don't know how they would have accomplished anything on the good side. So yeah, I think Lust definitely does have the advantage on Envy, and then everything else past that is pretty straightforward. I think it's all quite agreeable. So next on the list we have Gluttony, and I don't think that he is that much stronger than Lust. Pretty much he has the athleticism I'm talking about that I think everyone, all of the homunculi pretty much have. But besides that, he has his ability where he's able to just suck anyone into a different dimension, I suppose, that pretty much should be unescapable. But it's hard to say how effective that really is against people who are actually worth anything. And then, of course, there is the, oh, well, he was able to capture Envy and Ed and Ling. Not really, okay? For one thing, let's just make this abundantly clear. That was an accident, okay? He was actually pretty disappointed in himself that he did that. That wasn't something he did intentionally. And because of that, it can very much be assumed, it's pretty much stated, that all the people who did get captured were not, like, trying to dodge it. Like, Ed was like, yeah, these guys can't do anything about us. We are sacrifices. They can't actually kill us. So he's not seeing this ability coming. He's not even considering dodging it. Envy obviously isn't, because that's friendly fire. Like, hello? I mean, that was pretty much a cheap shot, an accidental cheap shot, which should have never happened. So that doesn't really account for anything. I mean, I'm assuming he pretty much probably has the same, like, physical abilities as Lust, maybe a little bit more, just because he has a lot of mass. He could do a lot more damage that way. And then he probably does have this slightly better ability of the stomach. It could probably be used quite well against a lot of shittier people who aren't worth too much. Really good AoE abilities. A lot of people have been asking me what AoE means, area of effect abilities, okay? You can get a lot of people at once. So yeah, I put him just above Lust on here. And then next on the list here, I have Sloth. And maybe some people are surprised that he's this high up. I think a lot of people might underestimate him. I don't know. I've never really talked Fullmetal Alchemist with a lot of people, but I think generally speaking, people would underestimate him. But I thought he was pretty powerful as far as we'd seen. I mean, he doesn't really take anything that seriously. He's always complaining, you know, mendokse, you know, that stuff. So it's hard to say when he's really taking it seriously. And when he did seem to be, he was pretty powerful. He even claimed to be the strongest, or not the strongest, the fastest of the homunculi. And I would argue it's pretty likely that he's the physically strongest. I mean, look at him, his size alone, he's completely jacked out of his mind. He was going up against Major Armstrong, who's pretty much kind of been built up to be like super physically strong, like that's his thing. So I think it makes sense that he is by far the most physically powerful of them, and it does take it to limits like his speed, where it's pretty much an ability. I don't think he has a real ability. I don't recall such a thing. Maybe I just missed it or something. It seemed to me his ability is his ridiculous physical power. So while I don't think he would be too much of a match for anyone above him, except maybe the one immediately above him, I think he would have a pretty easy time with the ones below him. I don't think they'd stand too much of a chance. I mean, his speed alone is just so hard to deal with. Both of the Armstrongs really weren't capable of it for the most part. They were on the defensive the entire time. I mean, Gluttony would just have to be able to hit him with his gut shot, is what we're going to call it, the gut shot, right? I don't know if he'd be able to because of his ridiculous speed. Lust could probably spear him a few times, but would that be enough to stop him? I mean, he could probably almost one-shot these people, you know? Once he, like, just smashes them, he just keeps hitting them until they can't regenerate anymore. I don't know. I just don't think they could take him. And then next I have Greed, okay? This one might be even more crazy than Sloth. I think some people might underestimate him since he didn't seem to be too crazy. He has this kind of defensive ability. The ultimate shield is what they were referring to it as. But, I mean, he wasn't put in that many combat situations. The ones that really stuck out to me were the two he had versus Wrath. And, well, the first time he got kind of destroyed, unfortunately, but the second time it was pretty good, okay? Wrath is a complete monster of pure power, so anyone who's able to do really anything against him is quite decent. Of course, Greed did have a considerable amount of help in their second battle, but I still think it was very good. I thought it was a huge, like, it said a lot about him. It said a lot about his power. He was able to do quite well against Wrath. He would never be able to beat him or even come close in a 1v1 situation, of course, but I think he was able to do quite a bit with the help he was given, and that says a lot. I also think his ability is generally OP, right? It's pretty overpowered. It's pretty much like full body hockey in One Piece, except I don't think he really has to be like concentrating on it, right? He just turns it on and boom, there it is. It's the ultimate shield. I don't know how that would interact with the ultimate spear. You know, it's like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Don't exactly know what would happen there, but I don't think he's even close to that low on the list, so that's fine. I mean, if you ever have a situation where you have something like an ultimate shield, a defense that's pretty much unstoppable, that means that you're very free to just go on offense. You don't really have to worry about your defense. You can just be working on taking down your opponent, and that just by itself gives you a massive advantage. I'm sure that it seemed to me that he was, you know, physically powerful like the rest of the homunculi. He didn't seem to be anywhere below the average, so when you combine just those really powerful physical abilities with his ultimate shield, I think he stands a really good chance against almost any opponent in the Fullmetal Alchemist world. And then next, the second strongest, I think, is Pride, alright. Of course, this is the guy that everyone was surprised was even a homunculi in the first place. He's just this little kid. I think that there really is not too much to debate here. I think it's pretty reasonable to say that he would be number 2, if not number 1, but I have specific reasons for saying he could not really be number 1. So the reasons I think he's number 2, besides the fact that his ability is completely overpowered, right? As long as he is not in some really weird blackout situation, he is pretty much insane, has ridiculous abilities, and I don't really think it's fair to ever assume that he's in a blackout situation. That's pretty strange. Like, he doesn't need to have that much light, clearly, based on what we've seen. It's pretty hard in the world they live, where they clearly have, like, electricity and power, for there to just be no light at any given time. I mean, even if there's moonlight, right? Like, I believe that is more than enough for him. That night that it was like complete blackout, I don't think there was a moon out there. The idea was they were saying, like, it's completely black, we can't see anything. That doesn't happen on a night where the moon's out pretty decently, so I think he almost always can use that ability, and it's a super overpowered ability. But besides even that, besides the fact that his ability is so overpowered, we have the fact just his name, okay? Pride is supposed to be the worst of the 7 deadly sins. It's the hardest to overcome. It is the one that hurts you more than anything. It's considered like the greatest sin. And on top of that, he happens to be the first of the homunculi. He was like the first. He's the eldest brother. So I think it makes more than enough sense that he would be number 2. The only reason he would not be number 1 is because I think the number 1 place is specifically designed for that. And then lastly, of course, we have Big Daddy Wrath. Okay, this should not be too much of a surprise to anyone. I mean, the fact of the matter, like I was just saying about Pride, is it's in the name. His name is Wrath. He has to be the most powerful, right? And just based on what we've actually seen him do, is that even really surprising? Like, he pretty much completely annihilates anyone he goes up against, unless he's like 1v15ing or 1v100ing. I mean, the way he was able to go back up into his castle, taking out the tank, I mean, it was sickening. And I mean, on top of the fact that his just physical abilities are completely off the charts, the only homunculi that really has any stronger physical abilities is just Sloth's, I guess, brute power, like his speed and just brute power, but like his agility is nowhere near, right? When he is using that super speed, he's not able to aim in any way, shape, or form. Wrath moves with absolute precision at all times. He's probably at pretty similar speeds and levels of strength. And on top of these ridiculous physical abilities, he has his actual ability, the ultimate eye. Exactly how that eye works and what the limitations are, I'm not exactly sure, because it is used in so many situations in so many different ways that really don't have anything to do with each other. I mean, it's like a Sharingan on steroids, pretty much. It pretty much just like shows him the path to whatever's in front of him. When he takes off his eye patch, he goes into fucking God mode. He went from just pretty much giving Greed a pretty big beat down in the sewers to taking that thing off and completely annihilating him. I think Greed is pretty fairly at number 3 on here, and I mean, Wrath just destroys him 1v1. Like, it's complete blowout. There's no chance. I don't think Pride would really have a chance of beating him either. I think he's too fast. The fact that, like, Ed is able to deflect all of Pride's abilities, even though he's not trying to kill him, so that does hurt, but he was trying to, like, chop off his legs and whatnot, so he was pretty much going all out. I mean, what do you think Wrath is going to do to that? Right? He's dual-wielding, for one thing, and he's fucking Wrath. Like, his physical abilities are just way too much. I don't think Pride would have any chance of stopping him. I think he'd get just annihilated pretty much immediately. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair that Wrath would be at the top. So yeah, that's my ranking for the Fullmetal Alchemist Homunculi. I think they were pretty reasonable. None of them were really too hard for me to go through. A lot of the other ones I do are a lot more debatable, but I think that this was pretty reasonable. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to leave me a comment letting me know what you thought about this video, if this is what you'd like to see. If you have any other ideas of something you'd like to see from Fullmetal Alchemist. I really kind of thought I'd have more of like a philosophical kind of video or something, some kind of analysis, but I don't know. I mean, I would say that the second time around it was just slightly better than the first, but I still think it is one of the most overrated shows of all time. I still give it an 8. I think it's really, really good. I just think that since so many people, like, I would say it is the most commonly referred to as greatest anime of all time. And I think that's just way too over the top, so while I do think it's really good, I think it's pretty overrated, and I didn't really have any huge analyzation ideas, so maybe if you guys have some, that'd be cool. I'd like to look into that. As usual, I hope you guys have an excellent day, an excellent start to your weekend, and I'll talk to you on Sunday.